Hi, I'm Rebecca Schramm, Director of Workplace Experiences for BICO. We are excited to have back our BICO ambassador and resident psychologist, Dr. Silvi. Dr. Silvi is going to teach us how we can incorporate more joy into our lives. Okay, Dr. Silvi, take it away.
Let's do it. Thank you, Rebecca, for that introduction. Today's presentation is Happy Hacks. And I'm really grateful to be here today. Thank you to the BICO organization for inviting me again to help support you, your office, your families, your communities. I'm Dr. Silvi, and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and associate at Bonnie Sucker and Associates, and we're located in Rockville, Maryland. I specialize in treating anxiety and mood difficulties in children, teens, and adults. And I also specialize in the treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder. I have a background in resilience. I studied happiness and resilience in grad school. And so the clinical recommendations that I'll be providing today are mindful to provide support that is evidence-based and related to developing positive emotions, in particular, this big positive emotion we're going to be talking about today, happiness. My family and I are Cuban. I was raised in Puerto Rico and Miami, so English is my second language. Bear with me if I blend or mispronounce idioms and metaphors. That's one of the benefits of being bilingual. We're going to talk today for about 30 minutes and then answer some questions that might come up. Let's do this. Oh, in addition, if you want more resources, please search for on YouTube. I have a small channel where I do short videos. I teach you how to increase gratitude, how to take care of yourself, take care of our kids during uncertain times as well. So just search for Dr. Silvi, psychologist and brain coach on YouTube. You're welcome to do that. Let's do it. Okay, so today's topics are, we're going to define happiness. It is such an abstract term. We're all looking for it, but I'm not sure that we have a finite definition of what that is. We want to talk about the benefits of it, right? We always, with my clients, I discuss, we have to have a why to increase motivation. So if I know how it benefits me, I'm more likely to engage in some of these activities. I want to give you a formula for happiness because that's how our brain works. We like formulas. And we're going to talk about the happy hacks, which are examples of activities that we can practice and put into place even today that will increase our positive emotions. So, happiness, it's an emotional state, and it's characterized by feelings of joy, satisfaction, contentment, fulfillment. And while happiness has many different definitions, depending on religion, on culture, it often is described as involving positive emotions and life satisfaction. Those are kind of the two main things that come from that. Because happiness tends to be such a broadly defined term, psychologists like myself and other social scientists typically use the word subjective well-being when we're talking about happiness or when we're coaching people on happiness. So just as it sounds, subjective well-being tends to focus on an individual's overall personal feelings about their life right now, in the present moment, right? When you think about a time that I was happy, you're not experiencing the happiness now. You're thinking about that memory when you went to the beach with your family. You were happy then. So subjective happiness, subjective well-being has to do with your positive emotions and the feelings that you're having right now in the present moment. And subjective well-being has two different parts. One is the balance of emotions, and the second is life satisfaction. So balance of emotions, everyone experiences both positive and negative emotions, feelings, and moods. That's part of the human condition. We have to feel the gamut of emotions. Happiness is generally linked to experiencing more positive emotions than negative emotions. That's it. That the balance between the two negative and positive emotions, there's more positive than the negative. That leads to happiness. One important thing to remember is that happiness is not a state of constant euphoria, happiness, contentment. Instead, it's an overall sense of experiencing, hey, more happy emotions than less happy emotions. Life satisfaction relates to how satisfied you feel with different areas of your life. This has to do with your partner, your relationships, your work, your achievements, and other things that you consider important. So those two things are what we need to kind of grasp onto in order to think about, okay, how am I going to work on my happiness moving forward? So how do I know if I'm happy right now? You might be happy right now. So these are some things that you might be thinking that are indicative of your subjective well-being. I'm living the life that I wanted. Feeling that you were living the life that you planned, you worked on, and you wanted. Feeling that the conditions of your life are good. I feel comfortable in my home. I feel comfortable around my community, my friends. Feeling that you've accomplished or are on the way to accomplishing what you want in life. That's subjective well being. Feeling satisfied with your life and feeling more positive than negative emotions. So, happy people still feel, again, a whole range of human emotions: anger, frustration, boredom, loneliness, even sadness from time to time. But even when faced with discomfort, they have an underlying sense of optimism that things are going to get better, that they can deal with what's happening, and that they'll be able to feel happy again. So, happiness has been shown to predict a lot of positive outcomes in research, and the area of positive psychology is booming with lots of important information and data on how positive emotions, and in particular happiness, are good for you. So, positive emotions have been found to increase satisfaction with your life. If you feel more positive emotions, you're like, I think I'm doing the right things. I think I'm going with the flow with my life and I'm getting the things that I want. Happiness helps people build stronger coping skills and emotional resources because when your cup is full, you're better able to take on all the things that might be difficult. Positive emotions are also linked to better health and longevity of life, which is really interesting. One study found that people who experience more positive emotions than negative ones were more likely to have survived up to a 13-year period. So, experiencing more positive emotion adds years to your life, quite literally. Positive feelings also increase our resilience. So, resilience helps people better manage stress, bounce back better when they're faced with setbacks. For example, one study found that happier people tend to have lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol when things get difficult. So, for example, they're better able to keep their cool when things are not going just right. Just because they have just a bucket full of positive emotions, they're better able to handle the negative emotions in a more productive way. And this is on a biological hormonal level too. People who report having a positive state of well being are more likely to engage in healthy behaviors. And this one's really crucial. So, this means that when you engage in more positive emotions, when you actively take steps towards experiencing positive emotions, which we'll continue to talk about, you are more likely to eat fruit, to eat vegetables, to engage in regular exercise. It's actually a negative state and negative emotions that keep us from taking care of ourselves in this way. Also, finally, and really relevant to our times, being happy may make you um, sick less often. Happier mental states were found in longitudinal research to increase immunity. So, we're not only constantly thinking about herd immunity, but individual immunity and improved health. So, this is also an antidote for that as well. So, lots of reasons and motivations and whys of why this needs our attention. The How of Happiness is a wonderful book on the science of happiness and well being. And the premise is really simple. We all want to be happier, right? The pursuit of happiness is part of the American dream. We all want to be happier, but few of us know how to go about improving our happiness. If you take a moment to consider, what do you think will make you happy? In my practice, I often hear people say, once I get in a relationship, I'll be happy. Once I get married, once I have more flexibility at work, once I have a new job, once I have a baby, once I lose weight, once I make more money, once I get this promotion. That's where our mind goes to with, I'll be happy then. And if your answers look anything like these, you'll really be surprised that none of these things will make a substantial you won't get bang for your buck when it comes to happiness with these things. The catch is that we tend to look for happiness in all the wrong places. So, what we believe will make a huge difference in our lives, actually, scientific research shows makes only a small difference, while we overlook the true sources of personal happiness and well being. So, research shows that the most important factors determining happiness are threefold, and they're represented by these pie chart right here. If you notice, there's a set point percentage, an intentional activity percentage, and circumstances. So, your genetic set point, what this means is that your genes, right, what we got from mom and dad, what we got from the adults that cared for us, are determine 50% of your happiness. In other words, half of your level of happiness is fixed. We can't change our DNA composition. We can't change our genetics in that way. Hence the word set point. You're either you have happy genes, or you have less happy genes or unhappy genes. And there's nothing you can do about it. However, that's only 50% of the equation. External circumstances, this is what shocks most people and what we'll continue to talk about in the next slide. Your life circumstances. This is whether you're rich or poor, healthy, unhealthy, married or single, beautiful or plain, driving a new or old car, only account for a measly 10% of your happiness. This explains why some kids in Brazilian slums can be just as happy as millionaires in the Western world. Stuff and other circumstances just don't have much impact on our happiness, period. And this is kind of a myth that we have to restructure in a way in order to keep moving forward. Intentional activity, this accounts for 40%, guys. This refers to our behavior, what we do, and how we think. As far as boosting our happiness goes, this is where the money is. Why? Because it makes up a whopping 40% of our happiness, plus our behavior is under our control, right? We can't control our genetics. However, our intentional activities and behaviors are much easier to change because those are under our control and effort, okay? So I get this question a lot in my practice. Why 10%? Why these life circumstances only account for 10%? So I explain, there's a human phenomenon called hedonic adaptation, which is the observed tendency of humans to quickly return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative events or life changes. So what this means is at first we react super strongly to changes in circumstances, but over time their emotional impact lose their power. We take good things for granted. We overcome obstacles. In both cases, we may freak out for a minute in the beginning, but then move on as if it were no big deal. In other words, we adapt. There's another really psychology's word about homeostasis, right? Even if there's any peak in your life, whether it's positive or negative, we always come back to balance and homeostasis. We come back to our set point. We've all been there. The initial thrill of a new house, a new car, a new relationship, a pay raise feels wonderful. But the enjoyment is rarely lasting for more than, some scientists say days, and some more optimistic scientists say 3 months. They actually did a study around BMW purchases because those commercials are so tied to, wow, you're going to be this powerful person driving through the mountains and like having all these adventures. And they wanted to study the people that actually got BMWs. And after 3 months, they were like, I have a BMW. So that was a little disheartening, but that's what ads are for. So winning the lottery is another great example. Research shows that within a few months, people who win the lottery are about as happy as they were initially. Yeah, there's great shows on that on TLC as well. So that's the bad news about hedonic adaptation. Positive events and circumstances may feel good in the moment, but due to our natural propensity to adapt, they'll never create lasting happiness. That happy drug does not last long, just doesn't. That's why it's 10%. And now for the good news, because I'm a very strength-based coach, we're actually super lucky to have hedonic adaptation, because that means that we have the ability to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. It's incredibly useful when bad things happen, when you're going through a breakup, when you lost a job that you loved, when you had to move to a new city. That initial shock and those negative emotions, that's not going to last long. You are going to come back to baseline because we are resilient creatures. So have that in mind when you're kind of thinking about your life circumstances and what you're putting stock in terms of what's going to make you truly happy. So let's work on that 40%, right? I'm very action-based. I want to give you resources and strategies. These are the intentional activities that are actually going to work on that 40% of your happiness pie, right? Take a screenshot of this. If you do want the PDF, let me know. My email is going to be at the end of this slideshow. But we're going to go through these with actionable steps, okay? All right, so intentional activities, gratitude. Those that know me or have even watched my lectures before know that gratitude is my jam. It is my favorite positive emotion along with hope. Expressing gratitude is incredibly protective and increasing a positive emotion. It's the ability to go from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality. It's being able to appreciate the things that you have rather than the instinctual way that our brain is always going to look for what's lacking. So take stock of the things that are in your life. You woke up this morning, you were in a comfortable bed, you have a home, you have a family that's around you. Adapt this attitude of gratitude instead of this attitude of lack. It's not until I get that job, I won't be happy. What are the things that make me happy on a day-to-day basis that my mind just kind of like glosses over? I love that cup of coffee in the morning. I love getting to hug my kids when I get home. I love my team that I work with and the smiles that they give me or the jokes that we share. Having a gratitude journal is an evidence-based approach that really helps you have gratitude and open your mind to gratitude, because we kind of are blinded by it a little bit because we're constantly looking for the things that are wrong, right? So it doesn't have to be pages and pages of a journal. Just write 3 things before bed. What 3 things went well today? What are 3 things I felt grateful? I felt grateful I wasn't in traffic today, or it was an easy day at work, or I problem solved this challenge and I really helped out my team. Do this for yourself, for your family, have conversations as a family. What went well today so that we can foster gratitude in one another, and you're working towards that 40%. Acts of kindness. So helping is incredibly correlated to happiness. Volunteering efforts, being able to do things for others that are less fortunate, not only allow us the perspective. I've done Habitat for Humanity volunteering projects, and gosh, when I come home, I'm grateful for my walls. I'm grateful for the place that I live. I'm grateful to have the extra time to be able to help others that are less fortunate. Have those opportunities with yourself, your kids, your family. Volunteer for your church, your synagogue, all these communities that need us right now, especially during tough times, that allows us to put yourself outside of yourself, helping others. And it's a twofold reciprocal approach of kindness within and kindness out. Begin a chain of kindness. We see this in the news sometimes where the person started a chain of kindness at a drive-through and they paid for the person after them and after them and after them, and this continued for hours, right? So try to find ways how I can do acts of kindness. One strategy that I've worked with coaching clients in the past has been to, if you have a birthday, for example, your 35th birthday, instead of engaging in just a party, some people are not into that as much. Maybe do 35 acts of kindness to celebrate your birthday. Or it's the 10th day of the month, let's do 10 acts of kindness together as a family. Try to find ways to incorporate kindness into your life because it's incredibly productive. Again, boosting that 40%. Here we go with hope. Hope is always going to be part of the equation because it's a very powerful emotion, and it's research based to improve our mood and balance out the increasing of positive emotions to negative. So best possible selves, I've talked in other talks about it, so I won't dive too deep into it right now, but it's basically, it's a task that you can do at any point. I recommend doing it by season or when things are feeling a little bit difficult, is you think about the future and you think about that everything turned out exactly as it needed to, exactly as you wanted it to. This is a time to dream big, be creative. Don't worry about how you're going to get those things. Just worry about like describing what it'll feel like. What clothes am I going to wear? What places am I going to go? How am I going to feel? Am I going to feel grateful, happy, at peace? You can write about it in a journal. You can talk about it with your partner or your children, or kids can even draw about it. Because hope, all it is I want something and I believe I'm going to get it. That cultivates optimism and hope. So this activity really grounds that and brings it into form. And it's a really, really helpful strategy. Also setting up goals for yourself. So there is a concept of sense of mastery that helps us feel happy. And it's a great happy hack. When we're working towards something, especially if it's a little bit challenging, let's say I want to do my first 5K, that's my goal. And I set up sub goals to that. That means I'm going to download Psy.D 5K and I'm going to do the 3 gradual exercises for the next couple of weeks. Doing those goals make you feel masterful, make you feel like you're taking care of yourself. You're also adding exercise, which you know is coming up soon in terms of the happy hacks. So having something that you're working towards that is in service of your happiness and yourself, very beneficial. I think an important thing in order to cultivate optimism as well is identifying the barriers. So sometimes barriers are, I don't know how to say no, or I don't have time to think about my best possible selves or work towards this 5K that I want to do because I'm overscheduled. So think about your barriers and then figure out what are the ways that I can make some space for this. And that's important in continuing to cultivate hope and optimism. All right, savoring life's joys. I know you've heard this before, but there are actionable steps that we can take in this, right? We have to relish in ordinary experiences. I talk about the gratitude train in my practice a lot. So that means, what did it take for this coffee to be in my hand today that I appreciate? I had to go to the supermarket. I had to have a job and enough money to do it. It's very much tied to gratitude and also enjoying the little things in your life. Reminisce about those joys with your family and friends. This is where photo albums, right? Very retro, but they're coming back. There's tons of different apps and websites that will take your iPhone photos for 2020 and just put it together in an album and let you look back at the joys, the ways that you've been resilient, the way that you've been strong, and looking through that. Replaying happy memories is a great happy hack. And there's one app called 1 Second a Day. I'll also put that in the resources if you guys like, or send me an email and I'll send you the link, where it prompts you every day, just record a second of your day. Anything that made you happy, anything about your day. And at the end of the year, you get this 6-minute video of everything that you went through. And you get to replay all those happy moments. It's important for not just to us to experience it, but actually enjoy it and relish in it as well. I see it in my most ambitious and productive clients that they're working towards getting the job, and then they move on to the next goal. Then I want the house, then I want the partner, right? At no point am I seeing the relishing and they're like, I did it. I went through all of this and I did it. Look at all the steps that I needed to take in order to get this job, this house, this spouse. Let's keep going. So more happy hacks. This one is cognitive as well. Overthinking and comparing, nemesis. They're very, very toxic to our happiness, right? It's important to think about when you're comparing yourself to others often, that's going to be a recipe for disaster, guys. It's important to kind of calibrate and ground yourself and remember that you should be comparing yourself to where you were 6 months ago, not to where your neighbor is right now. They might be in Bermuda, but they worked towards getting to that goal. And you comparing yourself here to their vacation in Bermuda is not going to make you feel good, right? Act to solve problems. It's not to just sit in the resentment of comparison or overthinking, right? It's important to also think about the big picture. Think about things like, is this problem that's really making me ruminate and overthink, is it going to be important a week, a month, a year from now? If it's not, I need to calibrate. I need to calibrate the attention that I'm giving it. And also, we've heard these, like, there's a book series on it, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Again, that goes back to, is this going to be important a year from now? If not, I'm going to be problem focused, right? Solution focused, and work towards it now. Increasing flow experiences. So this happy hack has to do with, there's a researcher called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi that developed the concept of flow. And if any of you have seen the movie Soul by Pixar, they have a really beautiful depiction of flow here. So flow just means I'm doing something challenging that I love. And in athletes, they call it being in the zone. When you're doing something and you get so engrossed in it, whether it's an instrument or a sport, that you get completely in the zone and let go. This produces a lot of happiness for us. And this is also very much tied to mindfulness. If you're playing an instrument while also watching TV, you're not able to be fully engrossed in the activity. If you're running while listening to a podcast, perhaps, that's not be fully engrossed in your goals and in the activity. So helping yourself control attention with the task with the tool of mindfulness, which I will recommend some apps for that, is a really great way to work smarter on your happiness and not harder. So let's keep going. All right, relationships. Of course, we're social creatures and we need connection, especially after the year that we've had. Making time and invest on people, not things. There's research on happiness that wanted to answer the question, does more money make you happier? And the results of it were a little bit different. Is money does make you happier depending on what you spend it on. If you spend money on experiences and on connecting with people, that does boost your happiness. But if you just spend it on things, that goes to 10% of circumstance, not so much. So we all need admiration, appreciation, affection. So keep your focus and attention on people, invest in people and not things. And this is going to be another happy hack for life. Learning to forgive. Forgiveness and not forgiving is a heavy burden to hold. And you know what? It's going to increase those negative emotions and keep you balanced out for that subjective well-being equation. So appreciate being forgiven. Forgiveness letters are a thing, right? Just letting go. Sometimes we write a letter and we don't send it because it's what we need to do for us, right? And practicing empathy and self-compassion, not only for yourself, but for others, right? All right, let's keep going. We all need coping skills, right? We're always talking about we need coping skills when things get difficult. It's not always going to be easy to just shift to the positive. So it's really important to understand that there are two coping styles, problem-focused and emotion-focused coping style. Problem-focused coping targets the causes of the stress in really practical ways, which tackle the problems or the stressful situation that's causing you stress. Consequently, reducing the stress. Problem-focused strategies aim to reduce the cause of the stressor. This is problem solving, time management, or obtaining any instrumental kind of social support from others. That's problem-focused coping. There's this other kind of coping that I see more so in my practice. It's called emotion-focused coping. So emotion-focused coping is a type of stress management that attempts to reduce the negative emotional responses associated with stress. This is where I see clients say, I don't want to feel uncomfortable, so I have to do something about it right now. This is where excessive drinking might come in. This is where drug use might come in. This is where distractions and kind of like not thinking about it because I don't want to feel the discomfort comes in. So it's really important for you to have some balance between how much problem focused coping am I doing versus emotion focused, because we need to bump up the problem focused coping in order to really process through things. We are going to have negative emotions and we can't feel scared to feel them, right? It might feel very uncomfortable, but there's something to learn from the experience. And being masterful in solving that is going to increase your happy hacks and joy points as well. Finding meaning in what you do is something that's really fundamental to us as human beings. I want to feel like I'm reporting to my company, my staff, my team, my family, my friends. So what is it that you're bringing in of value is also an important conversation to have. We've all heard of post-traumatic stress, but I want to share with you a little bit about post-traumatic growth. They studied soldiers that coming back from these very difficult situations, from being abroad, they actually came back more resilient and more gritty. Our ability to be able to grow in these ways is also a capacity that our brain has. So thinking this difficult experience, am I going to let it just increase my negative emotions, get me really emotion focused on my coping and ignore it? Or what can I learn from it to be stronger? So think about your post traumatic growth and not just on what it has taken away from you. Then we got to commit to our goals, right? We talked earlier that being masterful and feeling like you're working towards something that you care about matters. So owning your goals, being really invested in them with passion, and also being flexible that practice is going to make progress. I'm not going for perfection on that 5K. There's going to be some days that my run-in's going to be a little wonky, and that's okay. I'm progressing towards my goals, and that matters to me because it makes me feel like I'm not only taking care of myself, but I'm working on, gosh, that intentional activity to feel good. So coping skills have lots of different categories. Again, screenshot this page. There's different categories of things that we can be doing. There are the distraction, diversion types of coping skills, right? Where we can draw, play an instrument, go for a walk. We can experience flow in these. A Netflix night is going to be sometimes what we need. Social, interpersonal, talk to someone you trust, talk to a therapist, a coach, set boundaries, say no when you need to. This was a big happy hack in a lot of the research that I did for this presentation. Say no when it doesn't fit. Set your boundaries. Caring for a pet is another interpersonal way of caring and coping with difficult emotions and improving your happy points. Cognitively, you can make a gratitude list, brainstorm solutions, be flexible, have a list of strengths. So, not only identifying the things that I'm not so great at, but what are the things that I do that are strengths and that I bring to the table? Tension releasers, exercise, main one, right? Cry, laugh, expel energy in some way. The physical ones are the ones that we hear about the most. Get enough sleep, eat healthy foods, have healthy habits and routines. Limiting caffeine, tough one for me, and deep breathing is also going to be a great one. If you want to look into a specific strategy for deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing is a great resource, or 4-7-8 breathing, which is a type of breathing that will stop panic in its tracks. Spiritually, you can meditate, pray, be in nature. If you notice, most of my slides today made me so happy because this is my happy place, being in the forest, being able to hike, going to places where I can really feel grounded and in nature. And limit setting. I don't think we think about this enough for us, especially as such a productive and successful and bright community. We don't schedule time for ourselves. We don't often use assertive communication or prioritize having balance. So finally, the two happy hacks that I wanted to discuss are take care of your mind. This is seeking meaning and purpose in what you do. You can do this through mindfulness, through meditation, through prayer, through religion. It doesn't have to be organized religion. It's finding what is connecting your body and soul, and then taking care of your body. This happy hack should have been in the beginning, but I know you've heard about this before, so I didn't want to start with these off. Physical activity is necessary. There's a great book called The Algebra of Happiness, and they talk about immediately off the bat, the most successful CEOs, the most successful people try to move and sweat every single day. Exercise is fundamental to help us process emotion, to help us manage stress, to have that on our side. And your nutritional well-being, what you feed your body, you are going to be feeling later. I would be remiss not to mention toxic positivity, because this comes up often. It's not that we can only tolerate, I can only be happy, right? I have to do all the happy hacks. Like I mentioned before, we're allowed and we need all emotions. But I wanted to define toxic positivity and how to balance that out. So toxic positivity is excessive or ineffective overgeneralization of happy and optimistic states in any situation, right? It's kind of like, just be happy, right? It's the denial and minimization, and it's very invalidating of the genuine human experience. So when a person exhibits toxic positivity, they really deny any and all negative experiences that make you human. So these are ways to avoid toxic positivity. Instead of saying to someone or someone saying to you, you'll get over it, it's, hey, it's hard and I believe in you. Don't be so negative. It's, hey, it's okay to feel bad sometimes. That's okay. We just recalibrate and we figure a solution to this problem. Instead of always look on the bright side. Hey, it can be difficult to see the good right now, but we'll get it. It will make sense, and we'll make sense of it when we can. Right. So again, something to be mindful of with yourself, your partner, your kids, not to just dive into that toxic positivity, but be real about it. Understand that we do need all those. We have our genetic set point, we have our circumstances, and also intentional activities. And the goal is not to be happy all the time. So like I said before, I'd love to be a coach in your pocket. Here's some tech support, free apps that you can download right now. Insight Timer is a great app where you can find guided relaxations, programs. In particular, I recommend Be Calm by Tom Evans and Nothing Here But You by Moji. Smiling Mind, amazing app. It's free and it teaches you everything you need to know to incorporate mindfulness into your life. Headspace is great. There's just a cost to that. So I wanted to provide this one as well. The program Bite Size, it has just bite-sized little lessons that you can do to increase your mindfulness and everyday activities. And there's another great program called Calm Everyday Mindfulness. And finally, Anti-Stress. It's a cool little app. This, I think, might have a cost to it at this point, but it has little games and great diversions when you just kind of need to recalibrate a little bit and then come back to what you're doing. All right. I am so grateful for your time and the opportunity to talk about happy hacks. This is a great reminder for our community, for myself as well. And feel free to send questions and comments to drsilviguerra@gmail.com. So now I'll come back to Rebecca to answer some questions, and here are some references for us as well.
Great, thank you so much. We do have a couple of questions that came through, and one of them says, if I'm happy today and grumpy tomorrow, how do I make a positive adjustment in the grumpy moment?
You got it. So if I heard it right, it's I'm happy today, grumpy tomorrow, right? Okay. So normal, right? Validate and have compassion for yourself of like, not every day is going to be happy. I wonder what are the elements about today that are kind of lowering my mood in some way. Maybe it's a meeting that I'm feeling a little bit nervous about. Maybe it's I didn't get enough sleep. I always like to teach my clients the acronym HALT when it comes to their mood. So HALT accounts for, am I hungry? That's the H. Am I angry about something? A. L, am I feeling lonely and I'm seeking connection? Or T, am I tired? Those are fundamental things that we need to assess for that might be impacting our mood. And if that's the case, we address those. If those are under control, then we think about what intentional activity can I do today to help boost my happiness. Maybe I do need to bump up my gratitude today. I'm going to do a gratitude game with my kids. I am going to go for a walk because I kind of need to be in nature right now. Or I need to listen to music that makes me feel more alive. What are the intentional activities that I do? Because emotions happen to us, but it's in our control, right? To take on the circumstances and to take on the activities to improve our mood. And you know what? Some days we just need to be grumpy, and that's okay. I have grumpy days. Like today is going to be a grumpy day, and then today I'm going to make a different choice. Sometimes.
Okay, great tactic. We have another one is, how do I instill happiness into my children?
So that pie is not only for adults, it's for kids as well, right? So if you notice that some of your children might have that genetic set point kind of tilts them more towards the negative, I would be a lot more mindful about incorporating some of these activities as a family, right? For these kinds of families, I like to have very structured, like at every dinner when we sit down together, we go around the room and we say what we appreciate about each other or what we felt grateful that happened today, right? I would ask them not only what went wrong today, but what went right, right? What are the things that you really enjoyed about your day? I would talk to them about what they can do in order to improve their mood. Hey, let's go for a walk. Let's go for a run. Let's do a little dance party to get our body moving. And that helps them figure out, okay, I was feeling grumpy before dancing to Taylor Swift, but now I'm feeling a little bit better. So you're giving them the tools, right, among the happy hacks that might really work for them as well. So being intentional with the activities that we do with them, and also not feeling scared of the emotion is something that I always coach my parents on. So don't go, oh my God, you're having a bad day. I'm so sorry. It's so bad to feel. No, it's like, oh, you're having a bad day. We all have bad days. That makes sense. We have all these different emotions, and our emotions give us a lot of information. I wonder what your sadness is trying to communicate to us right now. We can go to HALT, right? Are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Or maybe you're missing a friend. And that allows us to be problem focused, right? Rather than emotion focused in our solution. So I don't want you to stifle the emotion, be scared of the emotion. It's, oh, the grumps came up today with some of my kids. It's like, yeah, the grump is here. Oscar the Grouch is here. And what do we do when he shows up? He's trying to tell us something, and that's okay. Our emotions are our friends.
Okay, and going back to that pie chart, we have a question. It is, how do I compensate for just that 50% of genetic preset? What can I do to outweigh that 50%?
So we can't do anything about the 50%. Right? I wish at some point maybe science will grace us with like modified genetics in terms of that 50% set point. What you can do is work on the 40, right? Because if your 40 is not being attended to, your 50 is going to take over, right? If you're not actually engaging in the activities that are going to balance that out, that's where that subjective well-being gets imbalanced, right? That's where my genetic predisposition makes the negative emotions come up so much quicker and so much higher. That makes us have to make an extra effort. That's kind of a little bit of the frustrating part of the research and the equation, that for people that their genetic predisposition is towards the negative emotions, they have to work harder than the people that their threshold is higher. That's okay. It's still under our circumstances, right? It's still under our control, and there's something that we can do about it. And over time, these activities become easier and easier. So for example, when you increase your visibility and activities of gratitude, your brain is going to automatically over time create those neural pathways, and all of a sudden you see gratitude everywhere, and you become a more grateful soul. You become a more grateful person, and your genetic predisposition is like, I can't keep up. She has too much positive.
Love it. That's awesome.
I can't keep up. She's gonna squash everything we're throwing at her. Yep.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions we have for today. Dr. Silvi, thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for joining us. If you'd like to watch this webinar again or our library of others, Visit beaconet.com/flourish and check out the green room. Thank you, everyone, and be well. Thanks, Dr. Silvi.
Thank you, Rebecca. Always a pleasure.